Hello everybody, this is Derek, and in this video I'm going to be going over some NFL predictions. Last week 1-3, I bombed out on the Bengals, they got destroyed. I took the Eagles, but I didn't like the game because I felt the spread should have been that of 3 points. It was 3.5, that's why. I took the wood and I took the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a loser. The Ravens, which I like pretty much the best, I love the chances of them winning it right. They came out, they dominated, and they played very well. They covered that. I also really like the Green Bay Packers. And what they did on offense was what I expected. In fact, I think they did better. What an offensive showdown that was. But I guess I underestimated Kurt Warner and the Arizona offense as they ripped that amazing Green Bay defense. 1-3, and now let's start off with the divisional round. Back in like 2000, 2002, 2003, I spent a lot more time handicapping the National Football League. I would go through injuries, depth charts, matchups, statistics. I would do a lot of number crunching and mathematical formulas, historical matchups. I mean, I really did a lot of work to try to get some decent winners, and I did very well. But back then, I didn't spend much time on the divisional round because all I would do is pick the home team, the home team, the home team, and the home team to cover the spread. Why? Because there was a system. I spoke about this on last year's divisional playoff video where the home team in this round historically covered the games like 80% of the time. And the reason for that seemed to be because that these teams at home had a full week off of rest while the teams that they played won the wild card round. Late in the season, they're already bruised, they're already sore, they're tired, and they had to give it 110% to win. That would give the advantage for the home team. But things have changed over the last half decade or so. Over the last 4 or 5 years, the road team has actually covered the spread at least around 2/3 of the time. Why is this the case? I don't know. Nonetheless, that is. I remember a few years ago, one of my greatest divisional picks of all time was to go against the Cowboys. I think it was against the Packers. I don't remember for sure. In the second round of the playoffs, the reason for that was because Wade Phillips decided to decided to give his players a week off. Yeah, go down to Mexico. Oh, that's a sure shot you would get destroyed. That was correct. Now moving on to this week, we're going to go start off with Arizona and New Orleans. New Orleans is favored by 7, and I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals plus the 7 points. What can I say about Kurt Warner? I think he's like 9-3 in the playoffs now. That is amazing, spectacular. And the guy is a winner. He's a pure winner. And we're playing against a Saints team who on week 15 and 16, they lost a couple games after starting an amazing undefeated season. The mistake I think they made in week 17 was to try not to get momentum back. And I thought it was a must-win game for the Saints in week 17, even though it didn't mean anything for the standings, but it meant a lot for momentum. And now what the Saints have got to try to do is try to build up some momentum, and they're playing against the NFC champions who are filled with a lot of momentum. And we're talking about a dome stadium. This is a spot where the Arizona Cardinals and Kurt Warner, they love domes. I also look at the Saints defense. It's a little bit banged up, and I don't see why the Cardinals are not going to be able to put up their yards against them. Now, it might be the same type of game against the Packers where you might need at least 34 points to win, and 31 points may not be enough. Nonetheless, I like the Cardinals plus the 7. Don't be surprised if they take this game outright. Next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. And the spread is Minnesota favored by 2.5. And all week I've been saying, oh, I'm going to take Dallas. No, I'm going to take Minnesota. No, I'm going to take Dallas. No, I'm going to pick nobody. And I'm still going to take Dallas disappointedly. And what I said with disappointedly is I was hoping that the spread was going to be 3 or 3.5. It is not the case, but the Cowboys are playing Very good football right now, and I think a lot of it has to do to, one, Miles Austin is coming into his own right now. He is a big game receiver, and I'm starting to see signs of Roy Williams coming out and playing better. And with having Miles Austin playing very well, it's only a bonus now if Roy Williams can play great football. That just makes things a lot more dominating for them. The defense of the Dallas Cowboys can create fumbles. They average about 1 fumble created per game. And Adrian Peterson does not know how to hang on to the ball. Expect Peterson to fumble the ball 1 or 2 times and to lose at least one of the fumbles, as both of these teams are very good rush defenses and very average pass defenses. So I don't think Adrian Peterson is going to have the greatest of running games. And the same thing could be true about Felix Jones and Marion Barber. They might average maybe 3 yards a carry on both sides, and it's going to be the passing game that's going to be able to win. And I think both teams are going to be effectively able to pass the ball. They both have weapons on the offensive side of the ball. But I think Wade Phillips also has learned his lesson from the Mexico incident. And I'm going to be going with the Cowboys only because the road teams have been winning the last few weeks. That's the reasoning on that. The final game of the week, and I'm going to go to the Indy game, is the Jets in San Diego. This is my top pick. In fact, both NFC picks are the ones I like the most. That is the San Diego Chargers laying 7.5. I'm going to take the home team here against the New York Jets. San Diego is the most, they're not given much respect. I have to say that right now. When people look at the top teams, they talk about the Indianapolis Colts, the Saints, the Vikings, and even now the Dallas Cowboys. And I think this is actually an advantage for the Chargers, that they don't have this big media buzz around them. They have receivers that are so huge, every single one of them. Gates and the whole list. 6'5", 6'6", and I think this is going to work out well against Darrelle Revis. In fact, I think this is the worst spot for Revis. And who's he going to cover? Is he going to cover one of the receivers, or is it going to be Antonio Gates? Phillip Rivers, I think, is one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And I think if they can find a way to use Sproles, they're going to be successful. Use Tomlinson a lot less, and then they're going to do well. And we'll see. I actually think that's going to be a little bit of a blowout. I don't even really like the Jets offense too much, and I like the Chargers defense. So put those together. I don't even think the Jets could score much more than 10 points. Thomas Jones might get 80 yards at tops. Final game, the Indianapolis Colts hosting the Ravens, and the Colts are favored by 6.5. Before I talk about my pick, I'm going to mention how it is that you defeat the Indianapolis Colts. We'll start with the Colts offense. You got Peyton Manning, you got Reggie Wayne, you got Dallas Clark, and it really doesn't matter which NFL receivers are on that team. Peyton Manning could give any receiver extra yards. He is that damn good. So how do you stop Peyton Manning? You don't. You can't stop Peyton Manning unless you are a defensive mastermind and you have the right personnel. The Baltimore Ravens may this week, but I'm not going to tell you how to beat the Colts on defense. No, I'm going to tell you how to beat their defense on an offensive system. I love offensive playbook, and I love offensive coaching. Now, the big strength that the Indianapolis Colts has on the defensive side of the ball is Mathis and Freedy. Those defensive ends are amazing at getting the quarterback. When a quarterback drops back to pass, they're in danger of getting sacked big time. So what you got to do to beat them is not drop back and pass. And what I'm saying by this is the Miami Dolphins Indianapolis Colts game was an eye-opener for me and what I thought the rest of the league in beating the Colts. No, it was an eye-opener for me, but it wasn't for the rest of the league. Because what happened in that game was the Miami Dolphins were able to move the ball, control time of possessions, and they almost beat the game. Peyton Manning had one of his better games of his career that day. although his stats didn't show it because he was hardly on the field. And when you do that, you really force Peyton Manning to be the perfect quarterback on that particular day. And the Wildcat offense is very good because if you take your quarterback, you throw him on the sideline, what you essentially could do, at least in the Ravens' case, you could put McClain on the field, you could put a sixth offensive lineman on the field, you could put any extra player on the field, which could be a blocker, it could be an extra playmaker, if you will. Because essentially, when you hand the ball off, and what you're doing is the quarterback gives the ball to the running back, which means you have a running back, 9 other players against the defense. But in a Wildcat, you have a running back with 10 other players against the defense because the quarterback doesn't hand it off. He's standing on the sidelines. Yes, some teams put their quarterbacks in at wide receiver. Unless you got a quarterback that could actually do something there, like a Seneca Wallace, I don't think that's the greatest of plays because no quarter is going to give that player much respect for that position, as they should. However, nonetheless, that is why the Wildcat works very well. Now, the Wildcat doesn't work against every team, but the Colts is one team that it works very well because of Mathis and Freeney. This stops them from being able to use their maneuvering ability to be able to go after the quarterback. This way, with the Wildcat, it forces the defense to spread out the entire field because you could be running a sweep to the left, a counter to the left, you could be running right in the middle, to the counter to the right. You got the whole field that you can be running, and if the receivers that are in the play are uncovered, that means that they can throw to them, and that can make big gains. Nonetheless, I think that if the Ravens were to use this strategy with Ray Rice, with Ron McClain, and with Willis McGahee, it would work exceptionally well. Joe Flacco last week threw like 8 or 9 or 10, 11 balls. They don't need Joe Flacco to be the quarterback on an every down appearance, throw 26 balls, or they're not going to win. Because what you got to do is look at strengths and weaknesses, and you are at a major weakness or disadvantage by having Joe Flacco back to pass on many occasions. If you hand the ball off to him, I think they can still do well, but I think they would do better if they ran it through a Wildcat formation. And we'll see what they did on the week of practice, if the Baltimore Ravens have decided to use this strategy or not. I don't know if Harbaugh would be the one to be able to use it or not. We'll see. But regardless of the fact, I still think that the Ravens match up better than most teams do against the Colts because their defense is one to be able to create turnovers very well, and Peyton Manning throws many interceptions amongst elite quarterbacks, meaning he's good for 2-3 interceptions against teams like this. The Colts historically over the last few years played very close games against the Baltimore Ravens, and this is why I was thinking the spread should have been 3 or 4, but hoping it was 6 or 7. Bingo bango, the spread is 6.5. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens, taking the 6.5 points. Now, as far as Super Bowl prediction, right now my prediction for Super Bowl matchup is that of the San Diego Chargers to face the Arizona Cardinals. Thank you all for watching. Good luck with your investments, your bets, whatever you want to call them, and enjoy the games this weekend. Bye-bye.